Modelling involves providing learners with a written or oral model of the language that the teacher would like the learner to produce. Teachers might model a particular grammatical feature, an appropriate language structure, or a way of organising a text. Or in speech, teachers can also model the pronunciation of a word, phrase, or sentence. So, how can you use modelling? Here are a few activities that use modelling: collaborative group work, substitution tables, analysing a text, and Dictogloss. We'll look at each one now in more detail. Collaborative group work. Group tasks which necessitate communication between learners can provide a great opportunity for EAL learners to work with peers who can provide good models of English. For example, you might want to pair a new to English learner with a competent learner. Two highly collaborative activities you might want to use to provide opportunities for peer modelling are barrier games and jigsaw activities. To learn more about these, go to the Great Ideas pages. Substitution tables. Substitution tables are another excellent way of providing language models and can be used for oral or written work. A substitution table is a grid which contains words, phrases, or pictures to help model the language the teacher wants the learner to use. To use a substitution table, the learner moves from left to right, making a selection in each column in order to construct a sentence. Substitution tables like this can also be used as the basis for collaborative group or pair work. Analysing a text. It can be useful to analyse a piece of text on the whiteboard with the whole class to look at how it's structured. For example, you might annotate a science text written in formal academic language, highlighting technical scientific vocabulary in one colour and sentences written in the passive voice in a different colour. Dictogloss. Dictogloss is an effective technique for modelling written work. A Dictogloss activity is where a teacher reads a short model text that demonstrates exactly the kind of writing that they want their learner to produce. The learners listen and try to recreate the text from what they've heard. Dictogloss also gives learners the opportunity to hear the model before reconstructing it with the help of their peers. In this way, learners hear a good model from their teacher, as well as their peers, and also end up with a good written model to analyse afterwards. To find out more about Dictogloss, visit the Great Ideas page. Why use modelling? EAL learners need to notice language in order to be able to practice using it effectively. Providing learners with written and oral models allows teachers to explicitly draw attention to key features of language that they're using, which can help to scaffold learners' access to the curriculum. As well as providing learners with exposure to appropriate grammatical structures, it can also help learners expand their vocabulary as it demonstrates how phrases or fixed expressions can be used in context. It's also a useful tool for developing academic language and helping learners to notice and use appropriate register. A top tip for using modelling is to model the language that the learners should ideally produce, rather than a simplified or colloquial version of it. In the first example on the left, we can see use of academic language often used in science, such as the passive voice and subject-specific vocabulary. These features are missing from the second example, so would not model the language that learners need to be able to talk or write about this subject appropriately. To make use of modelling for independent learning, you might want to give learners model text to look at home. You could highlight vocabulary, both Tier 2 and Tier 3, as well as language structures which are important for the subject or lesson. For example, here we can see the passive voice and will for predictions have been highlighted as they frequently occur in science and are important for understanding this model text. It's also useful to underline set phrases or expressions, as we can see in the example here, where it says the purpose of the experiment is. Learners can then translate the vocabulary, structures and fixed expressions at home. To translate model text at home, you might want to ask learners to use a bilingual dictionary, or to work with siblings and parents if possible. Learners could also use a good online dictionary such as Macmillan to hear the pronunciation of the new words in English. You might also want to give learners time to produce texts at home after having analysed the model text together in class. To support learners with this, you could give them success criteria that incorporates the key language features that you analysed so they can use this and the model text as a guide. Or, instead of success criteria, You may want to give them sentence frames or substitution tables to use to write their texts at home. Writing at home has the benefit that learners can take the time they need to write, therefore alleviating any time pressure. You may also want to use sentence frames and substitution tables to support learners with their speaking at home. You could ask them to use the frames or substitution tables to orally rehearse what they're going to say later in class next lesson. Thank you for watching. Please click subscribe to be notified of future videos.